Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a patient and a receptionist at a health centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6. Good morning. How can I help you?
Hi. I'm not registered as a patient here at the moment as I moved to the north of the city, and I was wondering if it was possible to register again now and make an appointment as well.
Yes, I can register you today, but all the appointments for today are taken, unless it's an emergency.
No, I can't say it's an emergency.
OK, so I can register you. Is it just for yourself?
No, it's for the whole family. Myself, my husband and my daughter as well.
I can check on the system to see if your details are still on here.
I moved to another doctor about 4.5 years ago, so...
Well, I can have a look.
OK.
Can you tell me your name and date of birth? And I can check using both.
My name's Clara White.
Is that W-H-I-T-E?
No, it's W-I-G-H-T.
Right. And your date of birth?
23rd of October 1990.
OK, let's see. Was your address before 72 Crockett Street?
Yes, that's it. That was my old address.
We have basic details but no records. They were all transferred to the other health centre you registered at when you moved. And your present address?
It's 88 Palace Avenue.
And the postcode?
It's ZE24 2TP.
If you fill in this form for yourself and your family, then we can input the details.
OK, but do I need to bring any tea?
I need proof of your address from a utility bill, etc.
I've not got any bills, but I've got letters saying we're connected for the gas and electricity. And, of course, I've got a letter showing the tenancy agreement with our name and the address on it.
That should be OK. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10. The first available appointment I have is on Thursday at 3 o'clock with Dr. Jackson.
That's a bit awkward as I've got to pick up my daughter from school. Have you got anything later?
I've got an appointment with Dr. Barker at 4 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah, that's OK.
But it's at our other health centre. It's not that far. It's less than 10 minutes walk from here on North Street. Do you know where the cinema is on North Street?
Yes.
Well, it's on the same side of the road between the cinema and the pharmacy, on the opposite side of the road from the bank.
Yes, I know it. There's a small park just further along on the same side of the road, on the other side of New Street, with bus stops.
Yes, that's it. We will send you a text to confirm. Can I just confirm your mobile numbers 07700 900 807?
Yes, that's correct. Thanks for your help.
Bye. That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. IELTS Listening, Section 2. You will hear a talk about the renovation of a theatre. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the official opening of the Glitz Theatre, an exciting new development on this side of the city. The renovation of the theatre has taken nearly 3 years of painstaking restoration work, and the effort that has gone into it all are clearly visible. Before we proceed to the opening ceremony, I'd like to say a few words about the transformation of the theatre. The venue has changed from being a rundown building to what can only be described as a modern theatrical experience. And for me, it's wonderful to see so many of the original features of the building still intact, especially on the facade, where all the dirt has been removed. There is now multicoloured glass panelling on the facade, so the entrance looks really welcoming. The auditorium, which was not particularly welcoming in the past, has had a complete makeover to create something modern and up-to-date. And we now have a concert venue for a wide range of uses, where we can hold not just plays, but pop and classical music, and for conferences. For the latter, we also have a new extension with rooms for meetings and educational purposes, all fitted out with the latest technology, along with an area for mingling and entertaining. The foyer of the theatre here, as you can see, has been made bigger, with a much larger ticket office and machines for collecting tickets that have been booked in advance. And where there was only a machine serving coffee and cold drinks, and a few stools and high tables, there's now a proper coffee shop selling a range of light refreshments, which looks rather inviting. The roof terrace, which used to be closed, is now accessible with a landscaped garden and a restaurant open to the public all year round. The basement, which leads out into a garden at the back, has been converted into a members' room with a cafe for light refreshments and an area for art displays or stalls. The theatre shop is no longer beside the ticket office. It is now next to the entrance to the basement cafe. It doesn't just sell sweets, as it did before, but also theatre-related memorabilia, including programs and books, DVDs, CDs, posters.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
And in the information pack you all have, you may notice that there is a programme of events for the summer months. As it's during the school holiday, range of special events aimed at children. For the matinee performance each day, the theatre is offering free tickets to 200 children up to 16 years of age. And there'll be special rates for theatre-goers who book a meal in the Roof Terrace restaurant as well. And we'll be having special evenings where there'll be concerts and plays by local groups. And also, every Wednesday, tickets will be half price for members of the theatre. The membership is only £70 a year and gives members and a guest access to member-only events and to previews, and access to the members' restaurant in the basement. And another innovation at the theatre is the monthly programme of lectures and masterclasses delivered by actors, producers and writers on various aspects of the theatre. This is a major development which will definitely pull in many theatre enthusiasts and hopefully revitalise the area. I'd now like the Mayor to say a few words before opening.
That is the end of Section 2. Section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You will hear two students talking to their tutor about a photography assignment.
So you're off to Glen Affric next week in the Highlands of Scotland for your photography assignment?
Yes, that's right.
So have you got the map I gave you of Loch Affric and the surrounding area?
Yep, here's mine.
And mine? And mine? Loch means lake, right?
Yes, that's right. Now, you've read up on it, so is there anything in particular that you want to look out for?
Well, as I said, I'd love to get some really good shots of the pine trees, particularly old ones.
You're going to see them all over. Look, there's a particularly big area of forest to the southeast here and several smaller ones.
Yes, they're okay, but if you look at where the two lochs meet...
Where it narrows in the centre of the map?
That's right. You'll find some of the oldest pines there, up to 200 years old.
Great. I'll mark that.
What about red deer? Can we hope to see any?
I guess they'd be more out in the open, in the non-wooded areas?
Well, they like an area near the edge of woodland.
So perhaps this largest area of forest here in the corner of the map?
Yes. They also need water, so between the woodland and the river. I'd try that spot. What you should also look for are red squirrels.
But they're so rare in Britain.
Not here, though. You might get a good picture of one among the pine trees near the loch.
Close to the loch. Perhaps this south side of Loch Affric.
Not right on the edge, though. That's where you'd look for birds. But in this slightly bigger patch of woodland behind it.
Just away from the water a bit, then.
Yep. There's plenty of wildlife to tempt you, but remember to go for a good shot when you see it.
Yes, I remember what you said in your lecture. If you're in a good spot, the light is good, if an animal is about to move into a great position, then be ready and go for it. My problem's hesitation. I wait too long.
You lose the moment.
Well, a lot of inexperienced photographers have that particular problem.
What if you frighten your subject off?
If you do, it's like anything. You have to put it down to experience.
So you shouldn't wait too long, but don't take the shot too soon either. Sometimes you've got to have patience.
That's one of the most important qualities if you're a wildlife photographer. You may have to sit for hours waiting for the perfect moment, but suddenly something will take your breath away and you'll realize it's all been worth it. Right, so do you have any further questions about the trip?
Well, yeah, I was wondering about the weather. They're forecasting a lot of mist.
Well, yes, but I wouldn't worry. In the long run, you'll still get your pictures.
But
you just have to be careful, you know. Experts say there's no such thing as bad weather when it comes to photography.
What about driving rain?
Well, yes, that doesn't make things easy, but it does mean that you need to take the landscape into account. Perhaps to a greater degree than you would normally.
Is that because of shadow and things like that?
Well, you get shadow in good weather.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm really looking forward to photographing the Scots pine trees. I want to make the most of all the stunning reflections in the water.
Just take your time, and you might capture an amazing reflection. You really should profit from this with the water around you.
You were talking last week in your lecture about a piece of equipment called an angle finder, and I've been checking them out on the internet.
It's a clever little device. Particularly useful if you're down on your knees trying to get really close to something in the grass, like an insect or bird.
I've got one actually, and what's great about it is that it prevents neck pain because it's like a periscope on a submarine. You can lie down and look through it without hurting your neck.
Definitely worth buying then.
Now, is there anything else?
Well, I've been looking at some wildlife paintings by Scottish artists. I thought they might help me get ideas.
That's a good suggestion. That's a good suggestion.
Some designers can be helpful too. They can help give you ideas about camera angles and how you use natural light.
I'll look into that. One other thing. I know you said we should consider matters related to conservation when we choose a scene to photograph.
I made that point because, well, images like the ones you're going to take can sometimes reveal some of the conservation problems faced by species and habitats. It's just something to bear in mind.
So, we're talking about astronomy today, the scientific study of outer space. And I'm going to start by saying a bit about telescopes and then move on to look at some key features of amateur astronomy. Now, one of the most powerful telescopes in the world today is the Hubble Space Telescope, named after Edwin Hubble. And it's become rather symbolic in many ways, and that's quite appropriate really, because you know, in the early days, it was instruments, and particularly telescopes, that kicked off what was known as the scientific revolution. We tend to think of science in terms of great minds conjuring up big ideas. We think of books. But in the field of science, instruments have always been more important. And of course, it was the Italian astronomer Galileo who started us stargazing. He didn't come up with the world's first telescope, but he was the first scientist to add a lens to his telescope that magnified things in the sky enough to be able to study them. Until this time, scientists had been looking at objects on the Earth, but suddenly, the skies held a much greater fascination for people. He said it best when he declared that his telescopes revealed the invisible. That was in the first part of the 17th century. Photography took longer to come about, so only artists were able to capture the celestial images seen in those days. We had to wait a further nearly 200 years until 1839, William Draper, a chemistry professor, to produce the first recorded moon photograph, which looks like this. Black and white, of course. Since that time, humans have built bigger, better, more powerful telescopes, and what can be seen through these in the present day is truly amazing. Millions of pictures have appeared in magazines, books, on TV, and on the internet. Most professional astronomers don't care if the end result is beautiful. What they really want is research data. That's their main objective. But when the device capturing a distant galaxy is the Hubble Space Telescope, or a large telescope housed in a mountaintop observatory, the result usually appears spectacular as well. Now, amateur astronomers often have a different objective. Many want nothing more than to capture a scene that will dazzle viewers. They aim to photograph things never seen before, like this beautiful solar eclipse that was captured in Greece, or this incredible image of the moon with a plane crossing it. But, needless to say, they've also made a great contribution to furthering astronomical research, and they do get their photographs and findings published in astronomy journals. So let's have a look at what amateurs can contribute. All astronomers are trying to find out or understand the origins of the solar system, how stars formed in the first place, and how the universe itself evolved in such a way. Amateur astronomers have a great deal of specialized knowledge that is highly valued in this regard. For example, they're very familiar with the sky, and they know right away when something new appears or when the brightness of an object alters, increases or decreases. They know how to tell the difference between, say, planets and comets or stars, or even artificial satellites. Many ordinary people wouldn't have any of these skills. And another vital skill is that they know how to make accurate measurements. Knowing the distance of one object from Earth, for example, is essential information if you want to make a valuable contribution to astrophysics. So that's what they know. When you look at what they can do to help the professionals, well, in general, there are two main types of observation that are important. Firstly, they are always watching space. They keep a constant eye on the skies for any new discovery, such as an exploding star that has reached the end of its life and lets off a tremendous amount of energy, or a comet, a very small object made of dust and ice orbiting the sun. Secondly, they constantly observe the evolution of stars, planets, and other celestial features. And the information they gather is essential to our understanding of these objects. It tells us, for example, how stars live and die, and how they interact with neighboring stars. In both types of observation, professionals can see advantages in the enormous patience and passion that amateurs have for their hobby. This doesn't just mean spending a whole night looking at the stars. We're talking about observations that involve spending years of evenings on the roof or in the back garden. It's not possible for professional astronomers to undertake these long-term studies or to spend huge amounts of time observing a single object. But amateurs can, and they do, and that's why they are so important to the field of astronomy.